Okay, I show 1 o'clock, so I think I'm going to get us started here. So again, this is Ed Crow with Crow and Associates. Just a few things before we get started is when we do these webinars, a lot of times they're based on experiences that we have on a daily basis or questions, often questions from our own agents. And we just try to use those questions and the things people are asking to have relevant content and do webinars that are kind of applicable to most people's day-to-day situations out there selling. And one of the ones that comes up a lot is recruiting, for sure. So that's what we're going to do today. I would say, though, what we do welcome is if you have any topics that you'd like to see for the future, for future reference, please feel free to send those ideas to us. I just had like the webinar we're doing next Wednesday, for example, is going to be a webinar about being a call center versus being a quasi-call center, differentiating the two and talking about rules. So again, always open to suggestions. So if you have any, please send them in, and that might be a future webinar topic then. But today we're going to talk about how to recruit insurance agents, and that was really going to be the main topic. But usually there are a couple questions and topics that go right along with that question. So usually if somebody wants to recruit insurance agents, they want to be an agency or have an agency level contract. So I'm going to throw that in there as well. And then from experience, what we've learned, there's a few things that you just need to know. So the topic got kind of bigger than it was initially intended to be. So as a result, I'm not going to get in super detail of any of them. What I'm trying to do today is give you an idea of how it all works and the things you have to think about. And certainly then we could drill down specifically one-on-one or over the phone or maybe for a future webinar. So I think having said that, we'll get started. If you have questions, please send them into the webinar. I'll answer them or try to answer them at the end. And we record every webinar we do when I remember to hit the record button. That is, I did today. So if you register for a webinar, you'll get the recording. So even if you can't attend, just register for future reference and you'll get the recording automatically. We do webinars every Wednesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock. So like I said, future reference, if you've got different topics you want to see, we'll certainly throw them in for a Wednesday or Thursday webinar. If you're not getting our webinar invites and you want them, just call our office or let us know and we'll make sure that you get them going forward. Okay, so today we're going to talk about agency contracting levels. That kind of goes with the recruiting theme. Benefits that people, agencies and agents working with Crow and Associates can utilize to recruit more agents. The actual way you can go about recruiting them, getting in front of them, or at least getting your information in front of them. We'll talk about carriers and states. So that is a big one, especially when somebody's trying to build an agency and it's something that they don't always think about. I know I didn't. So we'll talk about that. Most of this information I'm talking about is just from experience. So Crow and Associates started as just me with no sub-agents. So I learned from a lot of trial and error. When I built the agency, hopefully I can give you some things that I did wrong and some mistakes to avoid so you don't have to go through the same growing pains when you do them. Okay, so when we talk about recruiting agents, the first thing to know is when you're going to be an agency level contract, there's that first bullet's a little misleading. There's more than 2 levels above street contracts, but there's 2 types of contracts. I should have typed that differently. There's a direct pay contract and an LOA commission assignment contract. So when you're recruiting agents, if you're set up as an agency, and by the way, you can be an agency as an individual or with a licensed entity. You can do it either way. We'll talk about that more later. But when you're set up and you have sub-agents, they can be paid one of 2 ways. They can either be a direct pay agent. That means that you bring in that sub-agent, they're going to get paid full street, so the full CMS allowable street, the full street on supplements, PDPs. They're going to get that full street payment directly from the company. You don't have to pay them. The company is going to pay them direct, and then you simply collect the override that is paid. Versus an LOA or commission assignment, and for those who care, LOA is licensed only agent. So LOA versus or commission assignment, all the commissions, including the overrides for those sub-agents, will pay to you, or an entity is at the agency level will pay to you, and then the agency, you or the agency would pay those sub-agents. So in the difference between LOA and commission assignment is some companies at a GA or MGA level contract, they will let you LOA an agent. That means all the agent, when they write, all their commission plus their overrides pays to you or the agency, you then pay them. Versus some companies won't allow an LOA until you get to a much higher agency level contract. So as opposed to an official LOA, you have to do a commission assignment. Same thing happens. When you do the commission assignment, it's a form. That just means their commissions, when they write, they're assigned to you or the agency. So it really, it accomplishes the same thing, but it's just a difference with different companies of how you got to set it up. We can help you work through that, though. As I mentioned, some companies only allow LOA once you get to a certain level. So, for example, United won't do LOA with GA and MGA levels. You'd have to do a commission assignment, and it's just an additional form you do. But regardless, it has the agent's commission paid to you if you want. Or, like I said, you can do them direct pay, have them get paid. You don't have to worry about it then, and just the override pays to you. So what are the agency levels for Medicare? Well, you have street. I didn't list that there, but you have the street. So that's the full CMS allowable commission for an individual. Then you have the first agency level is GA, general agency. MGA is the next level, SGA, FMO, and then NMO. NMO is the highest level. So, for example, that's what Pinnacle, Crow, and Pinnacle level is at, is NMO. Companies use different acronyms for these titles, but they're all pretty much the same comp level. So, and pretty much the same requirements too. So you might hear Aetna use a different term for SGA. In fact, they do call it something different, and I can't remember what it is, but they're all saying the same thing, basically. Those are your levels above street: GA, MGA, SGA, FMO, NMO. So when it comes to Medicare, agency levels for Medicare are based off numbers of subagents. They don't look at production until you get at much higher levels. So for a GA usually, and this varies by carrier a bit, but in general, you need to have 2 to 5 subagents, including yourself. So yourself plus 2 to 5 subs, contracted and certified with that company for the upline to be allowed to put you at a GA level. MGA, similar thing. It doesn't go by production. It just goes by contracts, and most carriers are 10. And when I say contracts, again, they got to be under you. You got to bring them in. They got to be licensed, but they also have to be contracted and certified with that company to count. SGA is a little more variable, but most companies are 25 subs. So 25 sub agents to get to the SGA, and then FMO is much different ballpark. FMO, even the smallest FMO deals are 250 subs. Some are much higher than that. And you have production requirements. There's also production requirements at the SGA level with some companies as well. But anyway, those in general are your levels when we're talking agency levels for Medicare specifically. Question also comes a lot of times, well, Ed, I'm a GA, I want to be an MGA, but I don't have enough subs. Well, you don't have to do it all at once. So if you slowly bring in more subs, we simply keep adding those subs to the GA. Once you get to the level needed, then you just can be moved to MGA. So it's not something like where you got to get them all at once. You can slowly get to the goal, and once you hit that number needed, the minimum, then we can move the level up. An agency, you can have an agency contracted like a GA, MGA, SGA for an individual or an entity. So that's a misconception often. People think they have to have a legal licensed entity to get a higher level contract. You don't. You can actually do it as an individual. The other thing too is, do subagents, if you get to say an MGA level and then you got an agent that wants to recruit a lot, so you put him or her as a GA and they recruit a bunch of people, do they count towards your total count to get the higher level contracts? Yes, they do, is the short answer for that. So I mentioned Medicare, but we're talking about recruiting, and so there's certainly other lines of business. The other lines of business are not as defined and rigid as Medicare. So with Medicare, because of CMS's involvement on Advantage plans and PDPs, CMS does not monitor supplements, by the way, for those who didn't know. But because of CMS, it's much more rigid on the levels. It's not as defined for other products. So it's easier, in other words, to get somebody within certain limits, to get somebody to an agency or higher level contract on other lines of business, like final expense, long-term care, annuities, vision, ancillary products. Usually the companies will say you need a minimum amount of subs, and it's not that many, one or two often, to get to the first level above street on those other lines of business. If you want to get substantially above street, you're going to have sub-agents, and you're going to have production. There are some companies now, like a new thing, for example, Transamerica on Final Expense is doing, is their street always was 115. For new people coming in, it's 105 now. They've lowered it. And to get up above that now, instead of us just being able to put you there, they ask for production. So that's a new thing with them. So, but it's variable, but again, it's much less defined with other lines of business. The other thing we can do too is, unlike Medicare, where if you're a GA, if you want the agent with Medicare, if you want the agent paid direct, they got to be paid at street. If you want them direct paid from the company, not like that with other lines. With other lines, there's levels below street, so you can really kind of set what you want the agents to be paid, even if they're going to be paid direct. The other kind of benefit, obviously Medicare is a hot topic, but the other benefit of doing other types of products is most of them don't require certifications. Certainly, annuities, you have to do your 4-hour general annuity cert, and then to sell a new annuity, they'll have some kind of training, but it's like 10 minutes. It's nothing compared to Medicare. And then lastly, I just threw this in there because I thought of it at the last minute. Medicare supplements do not require certifications, all of them except for AARP. They require you to do the United Cert. But other than that, I hear a lot of agents say, well, do I have to do certs for subs? You don't. You just get contracted and you're ready to go. AARP being the one notable exception to that. I'd also like to say a lot of these webinars we make, as I mentioned, when an agent calls in or when we think about a hot topic or new topic that you as agents would want to know about, we'll a lot of times create the webinar right then. So if there are any typos or anything wrong in these, it's up. Lisa and Teal in my office, they're the ones who review this. I'm horrible with grammar and typing and everything. So they review this. So if there's any typos or anything, it's all on them. Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so recruiting, we'll talk about Medicare for a minute. If you're going to recruit, you got to have benefits that you're going to offer to agencies. So keep in mind, a ton of agencies recruit, right? There's a lot of them out there. If you want to have success recruiting, you got to have something that stands out. And, you got to be doing something different than all the other uplines that are recruiting. So that's usually one of two things. Certainly there are some really niche things that people do otherwise, but there's usually two categories. So you got to be offering them either more value and more programs than other uplines or agencies are offering, or the other one that can be even more effective is a very unique and effective selling system. Because if you really think about it, the hardest part of our business is getting in front of people. So if there's an agency or upline out there that says, hey, we've got a system, we've got a proven system for selling that works, you can package that and use that to recruit agents, because that's really the name of the game. Or, if you have extra value and you're offering extra things, like we offer our lead program, for example, that'll stand out, and that's something that other uplines aren't offering, you can use that to attract agents too. But you got to have something. So extra programs, maybe a unique selling system or a proven process of selling that works that you can show them and give them, or both. And then certainly hands-on training doesn't hurt, especially today's day and age. We're getting a lot of new people into our business, way more than we ever have had in the past. So, if you've got hands-on training, that certainly helps a lot as well. So again, the whole theme here, from the benefit standpoint, offer agents more basically with you than they can get with other uplines. That's kind of the name of the game. So that's where we come in. We help agencies grow. The agencies that work with us, we allow them to utilize all of our programs and all of Pinnacle's programs to help build your agency. So you can put a package of benefits together that really can't be matched out there. So we have our free Medicare lead program. You can offer that and recruit agents with it. We pay for it. You can offer it like it's your own, and we finance it. So you can offer agents that want to work with you. You can offer them the free lead program. If you have those agents come under you as an agency, they have access to the free lead program as well, and we pay for it. So you can use that and leverage it. And again, our free lead program has no minimums to start. There's no catches to it. If they have their contracts with us for Medicare, they're getting reimbursed 100% up to $500. It's a great benefit to offer, and it's, again, without minimums to start, it's very unique. We have Connect for Medicare, so they can access that at absolutely no cost. That's Connecture for those who know it by that name. We have Sunfire, so we have both national online enrollment systems at no cost to the agents. We have a really good quote and comparison site. So our quote and comparison site will quote and compare all lines of business, even annuities. It's Annuity Rate Watch's engine. And again, that's at no cost. We do training webinars every Wednesday and Thursday. We will do one-on-one training with people, whatever you need to help. Certainly, if you're going to build an agency, you're going to need to provide some of that training on your own, but we certainly will pitch in and help in that regard. Telesales leads for $10 a piece. Those are for Medicare. That's a really hot topic now, especially with all the people that want to do phone sales. $10 exclusive telesales leads are a big deal. We can run free phone lists for people, for agents, at no cost, obviously. And then we do all the other normal things that other uplines are offering, contracting, application processing, access to a whole bunch of carriers, and compliance officer, all the usual things. But again, you got to have the usual things, but it's the unique things that will make you stand out and help with your recruiting. All you would really do with us is the way we support you and help you is you just package all those benefits together, and then you start recruiting with them. And we'll talk about how to do that in a minute, but you take that package and offer it out to agents and say, well, here's why you should work with us. What are you getting from your current upline? And I think we'll compare pretty well. The other thing I just wanted to mention quickly is, obviously, if you're a GA, MGA, SGA, or any level above street, agents that work with you, if you're having them paid direct, they're getting the same comp whether they're working with you or working on their own. So there's really not a negative there. The other way you can recruit is with a unique or effective selling system. So like I said before, in our business, people say all the time, geez, Ed, when I get in front of people, I close them. And, I don't want to be rude, but I want to say to them, well, that's everybody's kind of deal. The hard part is getting in front of enough people in the first place. So that's the hardest part of our business with any line of business. With leads, certainly we have the lead program. Agents, I know, myself included, we like leads, but we're always looking for easy leads, and there really aren't any. There aren't many easy ones out there. Leads are work. They're work. So, if somebody's going to just use a lead program, that's great. But having an effective system, an effective way to work leads, a unique way to work leads, or maybe you just have a completely different system, like maybe you specialize in retail locations or specialize in phone sales, or you've got a set routine and program for mailers, something like that is proven with a track record is a really attractive way to recruit agents. Myself included. That's a draw. Hey, I'm going to show you the system I've used to get in front of people and it works. That will get people to you. So you just take that selling system and or lead system and you promote it, and that's how you recruit agents. So once you package that up, you've got this unique selling system or unique benefit package you can offer them. How will you get it in front of them? Well, there's a lot of ways, but one of the ways that still works really well is word of mouth, and nobody likes talking about that. It seems too old school, but it really works still. And myself included, no matter how much we try it doesn't work, it does. So still old school talking to people, getting yourself out there, talking to other agents, just letting people know what you're offering and how it's unique still works really well. It's, again, like I said, as much as we try to ignore that, even myself with our agency, that's how we still get a lot of our agents. Facebook and LinkedIn, you can certainly use both. there's debate here. I mean, both can be used as recruiting tools. LinkedIn traditionally has been the way. You can just build a large audience on LinkedIn. You can also do advertising, so your message, your unique message pops up, because a lot of agents are on LinkedIn. But more now, Facebook too. I know people think of Facebook as just friends, family kind of thing, but there are a lot of agents on Facebook. There are a couple agencies that do a really good job of promoting on Facebook. Now, they're not offering, those agencies I look at, they're not offering anything unique, but they're doing a really good job of having a presence on Facebook. So you really should look at both. I think traditionally LinkedIn still has more agents on it, but Facebook's certainly picking up some steam in that regard. Email campaigns, that could be its own webinar. Email campaigns will work. So you would buy a list of agents' email addresses. Some states allow you to run lists. They have them. You just run them for free. Not many states, but a few. But there's a lot of emails going around out there and a lot of recruiting emails. So doing email campaigns works, but there are certainly some things you would need to know about that, like who are you going to use to administer that email? I mean, you're going to use Constant Contact or a SendGrid or Campaigner. There's a million of them. There's certainly a cost associated with that, and there's just a lot of little things you got to know. So I would say if you're thinking about doing a recruiting email campaign, you'd want to call us. We've gone through a lot of trial and error with that, and we can help you there. So the phone still works. Calling people, calling agents to recruit them still works. It's actually made a pretty big comeback. I think in today's day and age of social media and emails, it's almost like people have gotten a little numb to social media and emails, and the phone isn't used as much as it used to be, so it works better. I mean, I, in this business personally, would get a couple of years ago, I would get endless phone calls for recruiting calls. I don't get as many anymore. So it's something that, because people aren't doing it as much, it's something that works when you do it. Mailers will work to a certain extent. If you're going to do mailers for agents, like a postcard or something like that, just know that it won't create much instant gratification. You're going to have to send mailers out long-term consistently for agents and agencies to know them. You'll pick up a few here and there, but it's a slow burn on mailers. They do work, but they're not going to suddenly have, 25 agents coming in the door. A big one is agents and agencies doing other insurance business. We lean on that a lot. We talk to a lot of P&C agencies. We talk to a lot of accountants. We talk to a lot of attorneys. They are, a good way to go, because sometimes a P&C agency will, they'll be doing their P&C business, and you'll say to them, "Do you do Medicare?" And they'll say no. And a lot of times they'll hire an employee or have one of their current employees do Medicare, and that can be a sub-agent for you. Our biggest source of agents is SEO and online search. We are on organic search. We're positioned very well online. If you search free Medicare leads, we're the first thing that comes up. We've been doing that for a long time. I'm certainly not opposed to sharing how we do it with people. It's just not something that you can do on what's going to be about a 25-minute webinar. But that's something we specialize in, and certainly something we'd be happy to share. Existing agents, again, just kind of promoting your message to agents already in the business. They tend to talk to each other, so that always works as well. And then a big one is agents you worked with in a past career. We have a lot of agencies that are former Humana people or former Anthem employees, and a lot of times then they'll bring in some of the people that work there with them. Maybe a lot of call center people coming into the business now that were hourly call center people that are going independent and starting agencies. So there's a lot of ways to do it, a lot of angles. It's just a matter of getting out there and doing it. New agents is a big one now. I know for years it was popular for like a Banker's Life or somebody to bring people right off the street, train them, get them out there. I usually set them up as an LOA. Because of COVID, I think a lot of companies aren't paying bonuses anymore. People have lost jobs. There is greater interest in people new out of the business getting into the business now than I've ever seen. It's not even close. So recruiting new agents can be a great way to get prospects. In fact, you can get a lot of them that way. You can just run an ad on Indeed and get a lot of new people. So there's a great interest in it. Great way to grow the agency, but just be warned, it is super time consuming. It will work, but you need to plan it out. These people need to get licensed. They need to get trained. There's a lot of steps to take them from a non-licensed new person interested in the business to licensed and ready to sell. And as I said, usually those people are set up as LOA or commission assignment. And you need to be ready to train and work with them daily to make that work. So an agency that focuses on brand new people will succeed as long as it's set up well, and as long as you get into it knowing you're going to have to get your hands dirty and you're going to have to train them on a daily basis. It's not something that's just going to automatically happen. Call centers, as I mentioned before, agents from call centers is a great way to go. Keep in mind, a lot of call center agents are usually making anywhere, depending on where they are in the country, they're making, they have Medicare experience because they're at Medicare call centers, but they're making $13 to $17 an hour. They're getting paid $20 to $30 an app, no renewal. And a lot of times they leave, and they can be great agents. They really can. So the call center thing, like I said, that's a huge topic. You almost could do another webinar, because I mentioned that because I have a lot of people say, well, how do you become a call center? We've done a webinar on that. Could certainly send you the recording. It's a lot of information. You can do it. It's doable, but there's a lot of details and there's money to be a call center. So it's kind of off on a tangent, but I just wanted to mention it. All right, wrapping up here, just a couple things. Something we've learned along the way is carriers and states is important when you're going to be an agency, because you got to keep something in mind that maybe isn't immediately obvious. If you're going to recruit agents, keep in mind is the upline. When you're an upline, you have to be contracted and certified in any state that agent is in order to receive overrides. So if you recruit an agent in Ohio and they want to sell 3 carriers, you've got to be licensed in Ohio and you've got to be certified with those carriers to collect overrides on their business. If they're under you and they're under you in, say, Connecticut or New York or wherever, and they want to go out then and in Connecticut or New York they have United, but they want to go and sell United in Ohio, they can't. They literally can't go sell United in Ohio without you being contracted and certified there. It'll get blocked. So it's not one of those scenarios where you can say, oh, just go ahead and get that. They can't. So that's something you really need to be aware of, because it can create a problem, certainly. You got an agent who says, I want to get appointed in 37 states. You're only licensed in 10 of them. That's something you got to be aware of. And then the other thing, too, is if somebody wants to get licensed and appointed in a whole bunch of states, or maybe you're recruiting agents from various states, every state, if you're set up as an MGA, let's say as an individual, you've got to get licensed and appointed in all those states. And a number of companies charge non-resident appointment fees to you, and you got to pay your licensing fees in all those states, and maybe that agent won't write anything in a number of those states. So it can get really expensive. It gets even worse if you're set up as an agency, because then you're appointed in that state as an individual. So you've got to get personally licensed in that state as an individual, and you've got to get licensed as an agency there as well. So you've got 2 licensing fees, 2 appointment fees. So it can get expensive. So be happy to talk about that more, but it's certainly something to be aware of. I mean, the last topic here is certainly our office will process contracting, help you track sub-agents, do all those things, but it can't replace the need for you to keep your hands on it. If you're bringing in sub-agents, you've got to help them follow up on their contracting. You can't just rely on us to do it. We will certainly help, but you got to stay involved on, are they getting contracted? Have they done their certifications? Those type of things. You got to stay on that. You might recruit 10 new agents, and it doesn't do you much good if only 4 of them have completed their certifications. So that's something we help with, certainly. We'll process the contracting for you, but you got to keep track of that. It's your agency, and you got to take a stake in that. So things I've learned, I just shared a few, but a few more that I've learned just based on my experience and successes and failures along the way is it's easy to get new agents. If you go promote the lead program and Connector and Sunfire and all the things we have, maybe you have a unique selling system, You'll be able to get new agents to work with you. But the follow-up is the boring part, but it's the part that's ignored the most often, but it's the most important part. So you bring the new agent on, and you just hope that they start selling. Well, that's where the real work starts. When you bring them on, you got to follow up with them, make sure that the contracting's been submitted to us for all the carriers you want them to have, make sure they've done their certifications. You've got to train them if they need training. You got to show them and introduce to them how they would access Connect for Medicare, Sunfire. Are you going to set them up on leads? If you are going to set them up on leads, are you going to show them best practices for working those leads? Because if you just have them use the lead program and have them use leads and just don't give them any advice and they're not effective at those leads, it's really not going to produce anything. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. That's the hardest part, though, is once you get the agent aboard, we have a tendency to just hope they do well. Really, that's where they need us the most, is to help them along the way. Okay, I really am wrapping up here. I'm going a little over on my time, but one thing to know is you're recruiting agents, bringing them in, you are training them and working with them. You just got to realize some people just simply aren't going to be good independent agents. They might want to be. You just never know who will and won't. But it's just kind of how it'll work is you'll put a lot of time, effort, and energy into training people, getting them ready, and some, no matter what you do, just won't be good at it, and it just won't be their thing. It's the 80-20 rule. I mean, you're going to put in all this effort and time, and only 20% of these people are going to produce and work out. It's just kind of how it works. Just wanted to also mention leads are not easy. You can give them a good lead source. You can give them a really good lead. But if an agent isn't working them correctly, and if they don't understand what it takes to close a sale from a lead, it's probably going to backfire on you. So you got to set expectations there and provide training. So moral of the story is having an agency and recruiting agents, it's not rocket science. It can work. You can be successful at it, but making a successful agency is certainly hard work. And I put right there in the slide, you can ask anybody that owns an agency. If you know somebody who owns an agency, just ask them. Say, "Hey, was this really easy?" And they'll share with you that it's it takes time and energy. Last couple things I wanted to mention is the looking for something better. I, for years, would find a good lead program or a good recruiting strategy for agents. And I think our human nature is we find something that works, but we don't put all our energy into it because we're always looking for something that works a little better. And I'm guilty as charged of that with recruiting. We have systems that work really well. We've grown the agency tremendously, especially in the last few years. But for some reason, I'm always out there looking for something a little easier. When really what I should do is, and I've tried to do, is focus my energies on what's working and stick with it. If it's working, just make it work better. Fight your natural desire to find something that works better. It wastes a lot of time. And then lastly, I'll say always be creative and open to ideas. In this business, you got to adjust to change. You got to adjust and embrace new things, kind of like with COVID and this big push for telesales. You got to really be open to that and creative, and you want to embrace that and be the one that's using that and promoting it and learning it, so you can stay kind of current with things. I'm sure you're sick of listening to me by now. So I'm done. I appreciate you attending. I'm going to see if there's any questions. I'm going to try to answer those. Again, the recording will be sent out to everyone that registered today. So let's see if we have any questions. It looks like we have no questions. Here comes one. Okay. I just have an agent here who has an agency. Somebody who works with us with an agency, and they said, I was introduced to you from one of your customers, one of your personal customers. And that's how this person in their agency got to us in the first place. So it goes back to the word of mouth thing. We don't like to give it credit, but it still works. It seems just too old school, but word of mouth from agents, from clients, from anybody is still a really good recruiting tool. So I appreciate that comment. Thank you. It's a good point made there. Let's see if we have any other questions. It looks like that's it. Okay, well, certainly if anything comes up, feel free to give us a call. My email address is down there. We'd be happy to talk to you in more detail. And other than that, I appreciate you coming on today, and I hope everybody has a good rest of the day. Thank you.